everybody? Welcome back to the ABNF Podcast. Nick, I know it's been a while since we've actually been in the same room and recording an episode.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah. And, basketball's back. Regular season started. Definitely hyped to see who's going to be the champ this year. Could it be Denver? Because Denver looks really good already, man. They're 4-0. Mm-hmm. They look really strong.
Yep.
I think we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the early NBA seasons, impressions of certain teams that we like, how they've been playing so far. We're obviously going to be talking about the trade that just went down.
Yes, sir.
With James Harden, going to the Clippers, getting what he demands. Like always, he's 4 for 4 for trades in his career.
Hey, let's just say this, man. At least he didn't put the fat suit on this time.
And obviously, we're actually going to have a little Bulls topic with Patrick Williams. We're going to talk about his contract situation. Obviously, rumors are spreading around how he wants X amount of dollars, which is...
How much was it again, Nick? Not one, not two, not three,
$200 million. That's kind of wild. We'll get into that. Obviously, we're going to also, talk about other stuff. And I'm really excited to get into this episode. I'm glad that the NBA season's back, man. I'm just super stoked, man.
Definitely, man. And I got to tell you right now, there's been some surprises. And I know that every year with the NBA, we have to kind of just take it for a couple weeks before we really can start understanding where teams are going to lie.
Yep.
But Nick, what have you seen to start in this first week of the NBA season? What's really stood out to you?
Yeah, obviously I'm not surprised that the Nuggets and Celtics are off to really, really good starts. I think those two teams are probably the top two teams in the NBA right now. But the other team that's undefeated currently is the Dallas Mavericks. Have been playing really, really well right now. They're 3-0. Luka Doncic right now is the front-runner MVP. I know it's early, but if you look at his numbers, he's averaging 39, close to 12 rebounds a game, close to 10 assists a game, shooting 48% from three and 56% from the field. He's had at least a double-double in every game, and 2 out of 3 games is a triple-double. He's been absolutely insane. He's been putting on an absolute show. If he keeps continuing to shoot the 3 ball like this, how are you going to guard him?
You're not going to be able to, man.
That used to be one of his kind of flaws. He hasn't been able to shoot the 3 at a high clip in his career, but if he shoots at least 40% from 3 this year, he's literally impossible to guard. There's nothing you can do. But they have 7 guys on this team currently averaging 9 points per game. I like that. They're tied for 7th in the NBA and field goal percentage at 48.5. They're shooting 40.8% from 3. That's 3rd in the NBA. But they're making just under 18 threes a game right now. That's the most in the NBA currently right now. They had the 7th most made free throws at 19 a game. So they're getting to the foul line a lot. And they're 4th in the NBA in not turning over the ball. They're only turning over the ball 12 times a game too, which that's been really helpful, obviously. But there's some concerns. Obviously, they're 25th in the NBA in offensive rebounding, so they're not getting that much second chance opportunities. Mm-hmm. They're 26th in the NBA in assists per game, which I'm not kind of really surprised. I know Luka's going to get his assists, but Luka and Kyrie are both isolation kind of scorers.
Yeah.
So I'm not really surprised with that aspect. Mm-hmm. And they're 28th in the NBA in steals. They're only getting 5 steals a game, so they're not getting in transition a whole lot either. So once they play really, really good teams, really good half-court defenses are able to load up and key in on Kyrie and Luka, I think that's when they're going to start seeing a little bit of troubles. But I like their start so far.
I think that they've definitely gone off to the races and really hit it moving. And I will say this too: the first game of the season, not Blake Lively. I keep wanting to say, I want to keep saying Blake Lively, but It's not Blake Lively. Derek Lively looked amazing that first game. I know he cooled down since, but I will say right now, Nick, he's going to be probably one of those guys that's hey, this was a great pick. You needed somebody that can be a true center for you because Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell ain't it.
Nope.
And I think that's going to be one of the things you talked about. NBA offensive rebounding, they're 25th right now. Yeah. I don't think that's going to change too much. They don't have a lot of size, and I think that's one of the biggest flaws with this Mavericks team. Mm-hmm. While I think that Kyrie and Luka are going to continue to get theirs, I think that as time goes on, they're going to go on these really bad stretches because they're ISO scorers. So one of the biggest things that I could see moving forward for them is that who's going to be that third guy for them this year? Because is it going to be Tim Hardaway Jr.? Is it going to be Grant Williams? Is it going to be somebody else? And you don't have Christian Wood like you had last year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you don't have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith anymore on this team. So I'm really curious to see where they're going to be at about a month or two into the season. Do they continue their hot streak? Do they kind of cool down and be more at like that 5 to 6 seed that we probably expect them to be at? Because I think that's like a decent ceiling to put them at.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I do want to add, Nick, I think one of the biggest surprises that I've seen so far is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
0-4. They lost Steven Adams before the season even started.
That's tough.
With another knee injury. And I really am concerned with this team because obviously Ja Morant's out for 25 games. And I know that the stat is that they won I think 85% of their games without Ja playing in the lineup.
Crazy stat, yeah.
But this year I don't think that's going to be the case.
No.
I know that I'm not going to really say Dylan Brooks is the reason why you're not winning, but think about it right now.
Tyus Jones was a great player for them too.
Yeah, I think that there are some pieces on this team that aren't there right now that they badly need. And Ja Morant, when he's healthy, he's a top 10 to 15 player in this league.
Oh, absolutely.
And you need that in order to win. So,
especially in a tough, loaded Western Conference.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The West, honestly, man, there's 12 teams right now that you could argue could be in the 10, top 10 in that conference alone. And we could argue it all we want. I do want to say real quick, though, shout out to Derrick Rose. Why in the world were the Knicks letting him literally rot on the bench, man? He still can play.
He can still play.
He looks really good. I'm really happy to see him playing again. I think that he's going to be a great mentor for Ja Morant. I think he's going to be a great veteran presence for them this year.
Yeah.
I hope they're able to turn around because I'd love to see him play in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, too, because the Knicks are not a good three-point shooting team, and Derrick Rose could have stretched the floor out so much for that Knicks team that's really needed three-point shooting. So,
yeah, that is true. Yeah. Also, I know that we talked back in the summer about the Rockets, and I think it's because the Rockets were one of those teams where it's like, wow, you got Amen Thompson, you signed Fred VanVleet to a huge contract, you signed Dylan Brooks, you have this young core, they're going to continue to develop. Alperen Sengun looked great last year. Jabari Smith Jr. really started to put his in. And you have guys like a Jalen Green. I know the problems with Kevin Porter Jr. that ended up happening where now he's off the team. Yeah. So, I want to say there is a lot to kind of digest there because Ime Udoka is a good head coach. And Nick, are you a little worried right now about the Rockets, or do you feel like it's just going to be just treading water right now and then they'll finally be able to pick it up?
I think they'll be able to pick it up eventually. Ime Udoka is too good of a head coach, and they really do have a nice roster. Obviously, it's a lot of new faces. Yeah, there's some new guys, but there's a lot of the players are new. They drafted a lot of young talent this year. They signed some guys. I think they just got to find their roles. Obviously, Jalen Green has such a huge role last year scoring-wise. Obviously, now you're adding a guy like Fred VanVleet's going to have the ball on his hands. I think they just got to get accustomed to playing with each other a little bit. I think they'll be able to figure it out.
I respect that. I would say, too, is that somebody that we need to be looking out for, man, is if he gets some minutes, Cam Whitmore. That was a really big mistake for any team that didn't take him because he is a bucket.
He had a great summer league.
Yes.
Unbelievable summer league.
So watch out for him because I definitely think he's going to be great. So, Nick, I think something that we all have kind of not dreaded, but kind of have just been like, all right, just get it over with because clearly James Harden throws a tantrum. He gets his way. He gets out of wherever he wants to. He gets out where he's at and goes to wherever he wants to. And it happened again at 1 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday. So, Nick, break it down for us. What happened? And tell me your first thoughts with this trade.
My first thoughts, it's kind of weird because a lot of people on social media were like, oh my God, the Clippers robbed the Sixers. Completely robbed them. Yeah. But when I dive deep into it, I'm like, okay, let me see this trade. I looked at the trade, I'm like, I thought this worked really, really well for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In so many different ways. So the trade, obviously, James Harden, PJ Tucker, I can't pronounce the other dude's name.
Philip Petrusev.
Something like that went to the Clippers, right? And then the Sixers got Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris, KJ Martin. They got an unprotected 2020 first-round pick. Yeah. They got 2 second-round picks. And they get a pick swap. And then somehow, out of all this, the Thunder get another first-round pick.
And there was
It's
a reason,
wild.
and there was a reason behind that because they had to literally like send more money because of how the CBA works now. It was like something about the apron is why they had to send that, and that's where that pick swap happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I was reading into that a little bit earlier, but I was like, I don't know how OKC keeps getting it because Sam Presti is just a wizard at this point.
Yeah, but my personal opinion, I deep down believe that the Philadelphia 76ers hit a home run with this trade. I think it's kind of crazy how the Sixers get more out of this than Portland for Dame. If you really look at if you really compare the trades,
it's true.
James Harden went for more than what Damian Lillard just did.
That is true.
That's kind of weird. It's crazy to me. But Philly they get a 2020 first round pick. They get 2 second round picks. They get a first round pick swap. They get three Dean wing players: Robert Covington, Batum, Marcus Morris. I know they're getting older. I know they're not like in the prime of their careers. This isn't the Nicholas Batum when he signed for 5 years, 120-some million with the Hornets years ago. All that, but those are guys that are on expiring contracts. They bring a veteran presence. They're going to play hard on both sides of the floor. I think the Philly fan base is going to love all those players. And they got a young asset in KJ Martin who does all the little things at a high volume, I feel like. He dives for loose balls. He does all the little things. I love what he brings to the table. Philly, they get more players that can knock down the 3 ball too. And it gives Tyrese Maxey now the keys to have the ball much more in his hands.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just watching Harden do whatever he wants with the basketball, things like that. And the thing about Philly is a lot of people are not realizing this. They made this move, too, because they could potentially have up to over $66 million going into this offseason. They're doing whatever it takes to make Joel Embiid happy. They can use these draft picks and use some of these assets that they just acquired for James Harden and make moves to get another maybe potential all-star player going into the, for the rest of the season. You don't know who's going to be available at the deadline, thanks to that. So I really think, in my opinion, I think Philly hit the home run ball, and I think the Clippers are taking a massive risk because now Harden, Kawhi, PG, Russell Westbrook are all going to be free agents going into next year. And if this team just completely blows up in their face, not only they're going to move into a new stadium, they're going to be going into a full rebuild, and they're going to have no draft picks.
And the biggest problem is that with the CBA, if they all sign those guys to massive contracts, they are going to be handicapped. They will not be able to sign anybody but vet mints. So anybody else that they would want, you're not going to be able to get.
Yeah.
So it's going to be basically kind of a pick and choose with that. So I think that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
I also will tell you right now, Rocco this year, it was actually before he got traded, he's playing 23 minutes this year. I know Marcus Morris fell off the rotation last year, but he literally just 2 years ago was still a very serviceable forward. I imagine that like Covington, Batum, and Morris will somehow be entered into Philly's rotation. I think Nick Nurse is a very good defensive-minded coach.
Yes.
I think he'll be able to find ways to use these guys. I think that was great. I also think that these guys could also be used in a trade going into the deadline with one of those top picks because that 2028 unprotected first-round pick from the Clippers, now let's just say, like you were talking about, the Clippers lose everybody in the offseason. They don't re-sign Kawhi. They don't re-sign Paul George. They don't keep James Harden, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you're going into a rebuild, and that Clippers pick becomes a lot more valuable because 5 years down the line, who knows? The Clippers still bad? We don't know.
Yeah.
So that pick can really become really valuable. And I think that if there is truly another guy that wants to get out of the situation he's in, I mean, could it be Zach LaVine? Because I know we've heard his name pop up a lot. Does AK finally say, you know what, this core is not working anymore. Let's trade him. Let's take this pick. Let's take some other players back. Now, personally, I would take the Miami package if I were them, like if I had to do it. But this isn't about them. Just I think the other thing too that you mentioned about is that James Harden is a team cancer.
Yes.
And I feel that anytime he walks into any situation, somehow it gets worse. Like that Nets team, when he got there, they looked on paper like they were going to win the championship.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Injuries happen. Everything blows up in his face. I know the next season, Kyrie Irving refused to take the vaccine. That became a whole issue. Then he was like MIA, and James Harden's like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then goes to Philly, and then basically is going, Daryl Morey, you're a liar. Because he promised him that he was going to get him the money that he wanted, or he was going to find him a trade. And he didn't do either right away. And this is why this all comes back. I think the Sixers, considering that they were about to basically just let him sit because there was no trade talks going anywhere, I think it's kind of wild that this happened.
It is crazy because it's just how much of a team cancer James Harden is. Like, if you go throughout his entire career, right? He threw a tantrum when he was in Oklahoma because I guess Sam Presti was paying him $6 million short. Houston takes a chance on him, pays him the max, gives him the keys to run the show, and obviously James Harden, he did become a superstar. I'll give him credit where credit's due. He was definitely a top 5 player in the league. He won an MVP. Daryl Morey, had so much belief in James Harden, and I don't even think James Harden had that much belief in himself at that time.
Probably didn't.
You know what I mean? He's playing with a Dwight Howard and stuff, and Daryl Morey gave that man everything in Houston. You want Chris Paul? You want Dwight Howard? You get Dwight Howard. You want Chris Paul? We'll get you Chris Paul. And you want Chris Paul gone? You want Russell Westbrook? You want Russell? Yeah. Oh, you want Russell Westbrook out? Okay, we'll trade him. And then obviously he leaves. He's unhappy. He got the fat jumpsuit. He goes to Philly, right? And he talks about how he's going to finish the rest of his career there. Yeah. Blah 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 blah. He's playing with Joel Embiid. He's playing with a great team. He blew a 3-2 lead to Boston, and obviously Daryl Morey saw a lot of games, which I have the stats right here. So James Harden played 13 playoff games with Philly. These are his stats in 10 out of the 13 playoff games put together. He had 3 really good games. He had 1 good game in the first round, and then he had the 2 good games against Boston in the semis. Game 1 and Game 3, I believe.
He went off in Game 1.
But these are the other 10 games besides those 3 games. 14.5 points per game, 32% from the field, and 22% from 3.
Those aren't great numbers.
They're terrible. And so how are you expecting to get a whole chunk of money where Joel Embiid and the entire Sixers organization is relying on you to be that second guy, and you couldn't deliver? If I was Daryl Morey, I ain't giving you the money either. I don't think any front office guy would give you that money after this performance in the postseason.
You're just basically throwing your money away at that point. You're just saying, hey, I'm going to put this down the drain because I don't believe we can win. Yeah. I mean, that's mediocrity at that point. And I think that it's kind of crazy. I wonder if James Harden's going to still call Daryl Morey a liar, because Daryl Morey kept his word and got him where he wanted to go. So I will say this right now. It is pretty wild that he got his way, because literally what he did, I have never seen another player do. Like that? No. I've never seen that. But, hey man,
I think Daryl Morey was just nervous because he didn't want Embiid to start saying, I'm not feeling really good about this situation anymore. I want out. I think Daryl Morey had to get him out of there. He had to do it. And I think he actually got a good package for James Harden, to be honest with you. That's just my personal opinion. I think a lot of people on social media, for some reason, I feel like oh my God, the Clippers robbed them.
They did not rob them.
I don't really think so. And the question I have is to why would the Clippers do something like this, especially when Russell Westbrook has been playing so well with this Clippers team? I mean, look at the stats. 21 games he played with the Clippers last year. He was just under 16 points a game, just under 8 assists a game, 5 rebounds a game. He actually shot 36% from 3, and he normally is shooting like in the 20s, and he's shooting almost 50% from the field. Ty Lue found a good way to get Russell Westbrook to play a certain style that Russell Westbrook is actually comfortable playing in. And in 4 games this year so far, he's averaging 13, 7, and 7. He's shooting 56% from the field. Even though 33% from 3 is not the greatest percentage in the world, but again,
it's Westbrook.
In his Oklahoma days, he wasn't even shooting 30%. So it's like he is improving.
Yeah, man.
Shooting the basketball-wise, so...
And Paul George is playing well this year, too. Yeah. He's been playing really well. He's averaging 27 points right now. He is leading the team also in steals as well. So he's still showing that he can play a little bit on the defensive end.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of also funny that people are really saying that the Clippers robbed them. Bruh. A 34-year-old James Harden who is coming off 2 back-to-back seasons that aren't at James Harden level MVP number, James Harden.
Yeah.
And let me also remind everybody, James Harden is one of the biggest choke artists when it comes to the playoffs.
There's a lot of games you could look back on in his career.
0-27.
Yeah.
That's the first one I'd look at.
Not only that, I remember the game he only had 10 points when Kawhi Leonard didn't even play to get eliminated by the Spurs.
Yes, I do. I remember that. And here's the thing. James Harden, time and time again in his career, he has always shown he cannot make it in the biggest moments. He always falls short. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. But it's never that James Harden can put the team on his back and actually carry them to the next round, to the championship. Because I personally think the Clippers every year on paper look amazing. And I think that
they do look amazing
right now. Like, I mean, when you look at the team, I know, like, you still have a good core of players on this team, which is kind of wild. I mean, like, you got Kawhi and PG, you have Westbrook, you have Bones Highland, you still have Norman Powell, you have Terrence Mann, you have Zubac, you have Mason Plumlee from the trade last year. I think that was one of the best pickups from the deadline.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that. Yep.
You got PJ Tucker. Now, I will say that PJ Tucker is 38 years old, so it's not like he is PJ Tucker on the Rockets.
Yeah, he's just going to worry about what shoes he's going to wear during games.
Yeah, my man's got like over 500 pairs of shoes.
He's got the greatest shoe collection in athlete history. Man, I don't think you can argue that.
I won't. I'm not going to argue it, bro. That guy literally is like flexing on everybody, every game. But you know what? I don't know where Harden fits in. That's one of my biggest problems is because Westbrook needs the ball in order to be Westbrook, right?
Yep.
Paul George can play off the ball. He doesn't mind doing that. Yeah. Kawhi's not a big, but it's like there's not enough ball to go around. This is always the issue when you have too many guys that are scorers or they're very ball centric. They like want the ball in their hands.
Yeah.
What the hell is James Harden going to do?
It's a good question, especially like obviously James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I'm sure they're still like good friends off the court and stuff, even after what happened in Houston. But in order for this to work, both of them cannot be on the floor together.
Nope.
At any point of the game. They just cannot be on the floor together. Because Russell Westbrook then is going to turn into the Laker version where he wasn't getting the basketball, he wasn't bringing the ball up, just sitting in the corner. And what's James Harden going to do? Just dribble. Russell Westbrook's just going to be sitting in the corner again. That's not his game.
Dribble, step back, fade away three, looking for the foul.
James Harden, this is interesting. He is the third option, but I think they just need James Harden to play that traditional point guard role. They don't really need him to score a whole lot. They got so many scores on this team.
Oh, no, they have enough.
They just need him to pass the rock, start the fast breaks, and knock down threes when he's wide open. Because when Kawhi and PG have it going, obviously, defenses are going to pay a lot of attention to them, and that's just going to leave James Harden. And I think he's going to have to really hit some big shots this postseason. He's going to get some wide open looks when they get to the playoffs. Well, if they make the playoffs.
They should be able to make the playoffs, barring injuries. But I will say right now, health is one of the biggest concerns I have with this team outside of just James Harden himself. I'm very nervous because we've seen Kawhi the last 2 times he's been in the playoffs. Both times, it was an undisclosed knee injury that we didn't even see happen.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's out of the game. They don't say anything after the game. Out for the rest of the playoffs. Tears a ligament.
Yeah.
Slight tear. I mean, I honestly don't know what to think anymore with him.
Yeah.
Paul George has had health issues the last 2 years. Has been out for significant periods of time. I know James Harden also has had the hamstring issue the last couple of years. So it's like, what happens when all these guys are hurt? Not to say like Norman Powell and Bones Highland and some of the other guys that are on this team can't step up.
Yeah.
But that team is not going to win a playoff series unless those 3 guys are healthy.
I think 2 out of the 3 have to be healthy.
Yeah.
For them to at least win one playoff series.
And I will say I would rather have Paul George and Kawhi be healthy.
100%.
Because I'm okay if I don't have James Harden.
Yeah.
But I need those other 2 guys.
Because Russell Westbrook and Bones Highland can play the point guard position.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
They didn't need James Harden. That's what's going to keep like just making me like scratch my head of why. Yeah. But
I've talked to some of my friends are Clippers fans. I have some friends that like live in LA or were born in LA.
Yeah.
And they're like, nobody's happy. No, we did not want James Harden.
I think Terrence Mann gave the perfect expression.
Yeah. Even like in the locker room, there's that video. Paul George couldn't even look at him. Did you see that video? He's sitting next to Paul George, and obviously Westbrook and Harden are talking, and PJ Tucker was sitting on the opposite side. Paul George is on his headphones, not even looking at James Harden.
Because he doesn't want this garbage to come into the locker room, and then basically problems ensue, and then you're gonna have all these like front headlines of like The team isn't getting along. Mm-hmm. James Harden's at it again.
Yep.
It's bad attention that they don't need, considering that the Clippers have literally been... I would say this. The Clippers have been one of the most celebrated teams without actually not doing much to get there. If you really think about it, one Western Conference Finals appearance to make up for these last 5 years, which is insane to think about that.
Yeah.
But, Nick, I think to turn the attention to somebody else that I know for us Chicago fans hits very close to home, the Patrick Williams contract situation.
Tough.
When I heard the first thing about it from Zach Lowe, he said not one, but $200 million.
Yeah.
My brother in Christ, where in the world do you think you're worth $200 million? Because, my God, if you can get $200 million, I want $1 billion then, because that's crazy.
Your agent's the best in the business then, if you can somehow get that done. I mean, so obviously the Bulls and Patrick Williams, they failed to reach, terms when it comes to their rookie contract extension, obviously, with Patrick Williams, and obviously talks didn't even come close since obviously there's a significant gap. And obviously Zach Lowe on his podcast says, in quote, I'm hearing Patrick Williams wants big numbers for his next contract. Like, starts with a 2, and it isn't $20 million. Right? If that's the case, this might be Patrick Williams' last season on the Chicago Bulls. Because if you really run down their team, right? Zach LaVine got $215 million for 4 years. They just signed Vucevic to $60. Vucevic actually took a pay cut. Shout out to him. Kobe White signed for $40 million. Ayo Dosunmu signed for $21 million. Javon Carter signed for $20 million. We just signed Torrey Craig. And now DeMar DeRozan's contract is up, and he could potentially sign for 4 years for $153 million. And if we do re-sign DeMar DeRozan and our cheap ownership, Patrick Williams, I'm sorry, man, I don't even think you're even worth like $60 million.
He's not.
Great defender, and look at his career stats. I mean, his career stats, 9.5 points per game, 4.2 rebounds a game, 1.3 assists per game. He is shooting a good field goal percentage at 47 and a good three-point percentage at 40.9% in his career. But if you look at his stats this year, they've been absolutely garbage. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get on you like that since I'm a Bulls fan, but we'll break it down. 4 games, you're playing just about 22 minutes per game, 5 points per game, 3 rebounds a game, 1.5 assists per game. You're shooting 33% from the field and 18% from 3. So where's the $200 million you want coming from, Patrick Williams? That's my question to you. Alex, what do you got, my man?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I just had to pull this up because I forgot. Patrick Williams has scored 35 points as his career high once. That was on 4-10 against the Timberwolves. That was in a garbage game where nothing mattered at that point because the playoffs had already been locked in and they were resting everybody.
Yes.
So can I ask you, Nick, why does this man think he's worth more than what DeMar DeRozan's probably going to get paid?
That's something that he can only answer, unfortunately. I mean, as Bulls fans, we watch Bulls basketball or every chance we get, obviously, you know what I mean? And, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a bright future in this league. I know he's off to a very, very slow start. I'm not trying to get on him like that. He could be a really good player in this league. We talk about all the time. He hasn't had his fair opportunity, offensively wise. He's always playing with the 3 with DeMar, Zach, and Vooch, and those guys are gonna shoot predominantly a lot in this.
He's supposed to be the
offense.
Defender for them.
Yeah, Patrick Williams is a very, very good defender, and in his career, he's been able to knock down perimeter shots, but he's not one of those catch and shoot guys. He's more of he's just sitting in the corner and he's wide open for a 3. Then he'll knock down the perimeter shot when he's open. He's not coming off double screens. He's not really a sniper like that. You know what I'm saying? There's better shooters out there that don't shoot the same percentages there. You know what I'm saying? But they're coming down pin downs. They're coming down double screens. Yeah. They're shooting it when there's a lot of people running at them, contesting their shots. Patrick Williams, when he gets wide open 3s, he is literally wide open.
I mean, it's not. You're not wrong about that. Yeah. I think another thing too with Patrick Williams, like you mentioned, right? He doesn't get his fair share. I know we've talked about it before on the podcast. Patrick Williams, if he had more opportunities to have the basketball in his hands, we might be having a different conversation about this.
Still not $200 million, no.
Well, I know. Yeah. I mean, maybe 50, 60 million if he was playing better, but I don't even think he's worth even right now. He probably would get as much money as Ayo, if I'm being realistic. I'm saying a team would give him probably $21 million, giving him about $7 million a year because reality is that, man, you're a 9th or 10th player on a contending, not even a contending team, like a playoff team, right? Like, let's say, like, you're, like, one of the guys further down the bench. Like, you're not going to get major minutes. And I'll tell you why is because I think for Patrick Williams, we haven't seen him be aggressive enough or dominant enough where he looks like a guy that could be the next Kawhi, right? That was his comparison when he was drafted. Mm-hmm. I get the big hand comparison. I get the size. He looks like he has the ability. I've seen him play aggressive.
Yeah.
He looks really good. Mm-hmm. He looks comfortable. His shot is very smooth. I don't feel like he has any like mechanical issues when he's shooting.
Yeah.
I just think that when you have 3 ball dominant players, you're never going to really be able to shine, right? That's why young guys don't always work with star players because they're not going to get their opportunities.
No, it is. I think you appreciate this because this is your guy. You talked about this guy a lot. The Bulls should have drafted Tyrese Halliburton with the 4th overall pick. What are you doing drafting a guy that was a 6th man of the year in the ACC over a guy that was proven at Iowa State going crazy? That was this front office's first draft selection, and you completely blew it. I'm getting so mad right now. I'm sorry, but imagine Tyrese Halliburton on the Chicago Bulls right now, bro.
I feel like somehow we'd still mess that up with the development.
I feel like it's Chicago sports. We screw up every freaking draft pick. Every high draft pick we get, we screw it up. Even this year for the Bears, sorry, different sport. You could have had Jalen Carter.
I know.
He's the most talented player in the draft. You traded out of the number 1 overall pick. He was projected to go there before he got in trouble. We could have picked him. We don't pick him.
It's Chicago sports for you, man. I got no answers for that, and I don't want to get too far into that one. Team. But
the city of Chicago would embrace him so much, man.
I agree with you. And even Tyrese Halliburton would have been happy to be drafted by the Bulls. He even said that. He honestly thought he was going to get drafted by the Bulls. Yeah. And here's a crazier part, too, is that they have badly needed a starting point guard, shooting guard, but really a point guard, not a shooting guard. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking more because of like fantasy, because you can play both positions. But you needed a true point guard, a guy that can actually like be able to facilitate this offense. Mm-hmm. And I mean, really, since Lonzo went down, that's been one of the biggest holes that we've had.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think AK really messed that one up. I get the whole like, it's not the flashiest player, but he has the upside and potential. It's like, I get that you're trying to find a diamond
in the draft too.
You're trying to find a diamond in the rough. I get it. But honestly, man, like, you basically drafted another guy in Julian Phillips who might, if he ever gets a chance, he might look better than what we've seen out of Patrick Williams. Yeah. And he looked good in the preseason and in the summer league. So I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too is Dalen Terry, we drafted this guy in the first round. He just got designated for
Don't even get me started on Dalen Terry, man.
So it's like these first round draft selections, they just have not been good for the Bulls. They really just haven't. And like, I understand like you're willing to take a chance, but man, when you have the 4th overall pick, you can't afford to take a chance.
No.
You got to draft the best overall player. And everybody in that draft, why is Tyrese Halliburton haven't been picked yet? That was like the huge topic when I forgot what pick he was exactly. Was he like maybe 8th or 9th or something?
He was the 7th pick by the Kings.
Okay, the 7th pick.
And the thing was the Kings already had De'Aaron Fox, but they were like, this guy's available. Why don't we just take him? And honestly, like, I know we talked about this last year, and I said, and look, I know what I said. I said I would have rather kept Tyrese Halliburton over De'Aaron Fox because I just believe long term his potential is greater than what De'Aaron Fox is. But De'Aaron Fox was great. He was an All-NBA player last year. Mm-hmm. He led the Kings. He was a bucket.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he got hurt early this year.
Yep.
I hope that he's able to come back real soon.
Mm-hmm.
But you know the Kings, they made a really good decision when they drafted him, and they made a little bit of a poor decision when they traded him away. But hey, you know what? It's okay, because I think that right now, I think Halliburton will show in Indiana when they're able to finally get there. I think that they will make the play-in this year. I think they have enough to do that. I think he's going to continue to prove, like, hey, all these teams doubted me. I'm here. I'm going to show you what you got.
Yeah. They love him in Indiana. They love him.
Yeah, because he's one of the rare guys in this league right now that's humble. He's going into work dedicated, and he's a really like just down to earth guy.
Yeah,
like he doesn't act like he's better than anybody, but he'll let his game do the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Nick, man, I could keep going on and on about Chicago,
but that just popped into my head.
No.
Bulls, that's what they should have drafted. Because everyone was talking about those top three were obvious.
Yeah.
It was Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman,
and LaMelo.
Everyone knew those were going to be the top three. We didn't know the order exactly, but we knew those were going to be the three. And everyone was talking about Tyrese Halliburton would be the next best player available. Pick a guy that at the time, Bulls fans were questioning, like, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the scary parts, too, is that they made this decision based off of 6 games. Because if you remember, COVID shut down the NCAA.
Yes.
You're really making a choice based off of what? Like, you're making it off of a small sample size that you didn't see the full thing. I mean, I don't know, man. I'd be pretty scared
Tough.
I'd be pretty scared to be taking that risk right there if I haven't seen a full actual, like, picture of the guy and you're taking that.
Especially with a Bulls fan base that's been desperate.
And I'll say this right now too: he's playing out of position. He's a 3 and he's playing a 4, I think that's one of the other issues of why we keep seeing that.
Yes.
But Nick, I think that's something that we talked about. I know last year sleepers were a big thing that we've talked about. One of the big reasons why we have this podcast is because we want to keep giving people stuff that people do not talk about. So
absolutely,
we know the media is going to cover LeBron. With the Lakers, and you're going to see Kevin Durant and the Suns, and
the
Steph.
Clippers now.
And the Clippers, and Steph and the Warriors, and then obviously in like the East, you're going to only hear about the Bucks with Dame and Giannis, and the Celtics with Drew, Tatum, and Brown. But we need to give respect to these other teams that we are not talking about, and I bet the media's going to talk about the Thunder now, but we were talking about them last year. So
absolutely, and I mean, you just answered one of my sleeper teams going into this season, not just because they're 3-1 now, but I've been high on this team since last year. People
I
respect that have been watching this podcast, like Oklahoma.
Yeah, SGA is your guy, bro.
SGA is my guy. So obviously they're 3-1. Obviously they're currently in the middle of the game right now against the New Orleans Pelicans, and they were winning big at the end of the first quarter. We don't know the score, but obviously currently they're 5th in the Western Conference, right? SGA is averaging 26 points per game, 7.3 rebounds per game, 6.2 assists per game. 48% from the field, 36% from 3. You know what's wild? He's leading this team in points, rebounds, and assists per game. I'm telling you right now, this is one of my bold predictions. SGA is going to be a top 3 MVP candidate this year. If Oklahoma somehow makes it to the top 6, doesn't have to play in the play-in, you have to have him in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, you have to.
And I like their young core. Jalen Williams is hooping, averaging 15.5, averaging 5 rebounds, 5 assists. 48% from the field, 36% from 3. Chet Holmgren looking like missing the full years, not really affecting him. He's averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, averaging about 3 blocks a night. He's shooting 60% from the field and 63% from 3. Okay, obviously he's not going to shoot 63% from 3 for the entire season, but if this man could step out and knock down high 30s, he's going to be so tough to guard.
100%.
With his length, his quickness. There's not a lot of bigs that are able to move as laterally as Chet Holmgren. Him and Victor Wembanyama is just going to be nice. That's going to be very interesting.
I was about to say, that's great.
Look at all the young talent that they have, and that are contributors every night. Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, and Casey Wallace, the guy they drafted out of Kentucky too. He's playing some good minutes. As a team, they're shooting about 49% from the field. They're shooting 41% from 3, and they're shooting 82% from the foul line. So all 3 phases of shooting the basketball, they're shooting at a high clip. This team is going to be very, very dangerous. This is going to be a scrappy team that I don't think teams are not going to want to play come postseason.
I mean, look at what they did to the Bulls first game of the year. They cooked them bad. And I gotta tell you this right now, Nick. Yeah. The reason I love this team is because it's a bunch of low-key guys. It's not flashy player names. All these guys you talk about, I promise you, a lot of casual fans do not know half
besides
this team.
SGA.
Besides SGA, people are going to find out who Jalen Williams are.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who Jalen Williams was last year.
Nobody.
And there's another Jalen Williams they have too that's a second-round pick that was pretty good for them last year, the forward. I mean, like, it's crazy, but they have a lot of pieces. And Sam Presti, the wizard over here, my man still has like 35 draft picks.
It looks like he's not going to trade any.
And he's just going to keep like hoarding them like my GM over here. So I definitely agree with you, Nick. I think that's a great sleeper pick. I do think people need to start putting more respect on OKC's name. I think the media is finally starting to see that. SGA, man, he's going to be a problem.
For a long time.
100%.
He's so hard to guard, man. He's just so crafty, and I've been loving SGA's game for a while.
That Paul George trade, man. That Paul George trade is starting to keeps looking worse and worse and worse for the Clippers every year because SGA, they fucked up.
Yeah, they did. They wouldn't have to give up all those picks. Imagine how that team could look right now with those draft picks. SGA could have been running the show for the Clippers. You know, they screwed that one up. But another Western Conference team I have is the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that obviously I believe they're losing to Oklahoma City. Right
so they are down. I was looking at they're up. When I looked at it the first time, it was
33 to 14 of that in the first quarter.
59-58, 7:56 left in the third.
Wow. Okay. So they're 2-1 currently. Even though that's 7th in the Western Conference, but 2-1, you're off to a good start, obviously. And Brandon Ingram, the 2 games he's played, he's averaging about 23, 7, and 5. He's shooting 51% from the field. You know, Zion, if he could stay healthy, man, you know, he's averaging 22 points per game, about 6 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 57% from the field. And obviously, CJ McCollum's averaging about 18 per game right now, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, only shooting 40% from 3, but he's shooting 38.5% from three-point range. When you look at this team, right, when healthy, they actually have one of the best big threes in the NBA.
Yeah, I would say so.
They're up there when it comes to big threes. They are definitely up there. But obviously that's when they're all healthy. But look at the depth that they have on this team. So they have those 3 when healthy. They have Jonas Valanciunas is a good player. Herbert Jones is getting more minutes now. You're really starting to see his game improve much more.
Oh yeah.
Jordan Hawkins, they just drafted first round out of UConn. You know, he's starting now for this team, which is very interesting. They got Matt Ryan that can hit some threes. Larry Nance Jr. And Kiel Lewis Jr. is another point guard that they have on this team. So they got a lot of guys that they could throw at teams. You know, they got a very deep bench. And I think if Zion can stay healthy, if Brandon Ingram can stay healthy, you know the veteran presence that has a lot of experience, CJ McCollum, will show up. He doesn't fold under pressure. He is a very good basketball player. And with this bench, this is another team that I don't think a lot of teams in the West are going to want to play in a best of 7. If they creep into the top 6. If they stay healthy, they're a top 6 team in the West.
Yeah, and I think that they also probably have a very low-key, deep team. Like, when you talk about it, you know, Herb Jones has been a low-key guy. They don't even have Troy Murphy right now.
Yeah.
And when he comes back, he was really good last year for them. Mm-hmm. Larry Nance Jr. has really found a role in that team as well. Mm-hmm. And Valanciunas has been a great center for them since they acquired him for the Steven Adams trade. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think when we talked about the Pelicans last year, they looked great. Literally, the reason why it all went to like crap for them was the Zion injury.
They were second in the West, man. They were a half a game from Denver,
which is crazy to think about at that time. That the Pelicans at one point were also the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So we were really thinking last year the Pelicans, they got a shot. But
they got a lot of talent on this team.
I like those though, Nick. I definitely agree the Pelicans are going to be one of those teams. I just think if health wasn't their issue, we would talk about them more.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things.
Especially like the media would love to talk about Zion. But the issue is he hasn't really been on the floor in his career, and he's had off-the-floor issues, so they can't really talk about him a whole lot right now. I think they're trying to build him back up.
And I think the other thing too is that if Zion can at least stay healthy, keep the weight down, I think that his knees are going to thank him for that because I think one of the biggest issues is because of how big of a guy he is and the amount of weight and pressure he's putting on his knees every night. It's going to hurt him in the long run than help him.
Yeah.
So definitely agree with you there. I want to get to the 2 sleeper teams that I have.
Yep.
I know you did 2 West teams. So ironically, 2 of my sleeper, I did 3 sleeper teams. Okay. One of them you've already talked about, which is OKC. Okay. I got 2 for you. One is going to be the Orlando Magic. And the reason why I'm going to say the Orlando Magic is because I feel like the last 2 years, they've tried to basically build their core up. Yeah. And Franz Wagner, who we could talk about in that Vooch trade, he's their best player for sure. He's averaging 18 this year, 6 rebounds, half a block a game, 3 assists. Wendell Carter, who's also in the Vooch trade, has been a serviceable big man for them. Paulo Banchero, who...
He's going to be a star in this league.
Yeah, and he was on Team USA this past year. You have guys like Jalen Suggs, Markelle Fultz as well, if he can stay healthy. He was serviceable for them beforehand. You have Franz's older brother, Mo. And then obviously, like, if Jonathan Isaac can come back and be what he was before he was hurt, I think that they could sneak in as like a play-in team. I don't think they're going to be like a top 6 team, but I would just say look out. They're 2-2 right now, which is ironically first in their division. I mean, divisions don't really matter anymore, but it's kind of wild that like that's first for that. But I would also say too, my other team, and my guy Halliburton over here, definitely say Indiana. I think between the two, I would probably put Indiana as more of like that. Like, I really think they are going to make the play-in. Yeah. I love Halliburton. I think he's a great guy. Dude, he's averaging in his first four games, 12 assists. I mean, you just can't get more than that. I know you're probably thinking, you're like, God damn, I wish he was on the Bulls.
The backcourt would have been nice.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We decided to not do that. And when I look at everybody else on this team, like Benedict Mathurin was not a name that was familiar for people last year, but he is a bucket. He's averaging 15 in just 23 minutes right now.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
Bruce Brown I think he was a great pickup. He was very surprising that he went to Indiana, but he was
because
the Nuggets.
Overpay for him.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets, that was their 6th man in the finals, in the playoffs last year. I think he's going to be very instrumental in a playoff run for them this year. Miles Turner, I don't need to say much more because I feel like he has been a serviceable.
Still hit threes like crazy.
Buddy Hield. They have Aaron Nesmith. They also have Obi Toppin that they actually picked up from the Knicks. So I feel like he'll be solid. TJ McConnell's a solid backup point guard. Yeah. And then also Andrew Nembhard was really good for them. When Halliburton went down, Nembhard really made himself known. I just feel like this team, that 8-man rotation for them right now, I feel like it's enough. You could win enough games to sneak in the play-in, and anything can happen. I mean, look at the Miami Heat. They won the second play-in game, and they made the finals. Yeah. Not saying that's what's going to happen with Indiana, but I really think between those two, don't sleep on Indiana this year. I think Halliburton, if healthy, is going to lead them to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
But that I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, I know we're 3 to 4 games into the year. It's hard to tell sometimes with teams. I mean, dude, the Cavs are 1-3 right now. The Heat are 1-3. I don't believe that both those teams are going to somehow miss the playoffs. I don't see that. Yeah. But Nick, I know that in other news, we've had a big announcement that I know that you mentioned on our Facebook and also on Twitter and Snapchat. So I think...
did you have one more topic to talk about before?
Yes. We did. Bold predictions. Yeah. I'm going to let you go first. So what's your bold prediction?
Shocked.
What's your bold prediction for this year?
The Lakers will be going home in the first round of the playoffs this year. I think they're either going to be a play-in team, make it out of the play-in, lose in the first round, or they get into the first round, and I think they're going to get bounced in the first round. I don't trust Anthony Davis. I don't think he's going to be healthy this regular season. I think they're going to not have a really, really good seed. I think they're going to have a very, very tough opponent in the first round. Just like Stephen A. Smith calls him Six Flags. I think that's a perfect name for him because he's such a roller coaster. You never know. Even though, besides the first game of the season, he has been balling out. I'll give him credit where credit's due. But can you rely on that every game? I don't know. LeBron, he's been a turnover machine so far. He's averaging about 6 turnovers a game. He's still great. His numbers still look great. We look at his stats across the board, he's still averaging about 27 points a night, 8 assists, all that. But he's turning over the ball a lot. I know it's early. But who's going to be their third guy consistently, though? I think, Austin Reeves is a good player. Rui Hachimura's not getting that much minutes. I don't trust Taurean Prince. D'Angelo Russell's so inconsistent. I just look at this roster. They do got a lot of guys that can play. I'm not arguing that at all. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like this team, when it comes to the postseason, I think they're going to be relying on LeBron and AD too much, and I think AD is going to crumble, and I just don't see the Lakers being as much of a threat as everyone seems to think that they are. My personal opinion.
No, I mean, I respect it. I mean, I can see that. I see it one of two ways with them. I either think I'm going to be honest. I think they'll be the sixth seed this year. Like, that was my, take for them, was they'll be the sixth seed. Just kind of watching.
I think they cracked the top six.
I feel like watching the first 4 games, they're not a top 3 seed like I thought they were going to be. Mm-hmm. I just feel like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like this team can win games, but it just seems like LeBron still has an effect where it's like if he's not on the floor, their plus minus is horrendous.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I feel like it's going to go one of two ways for them. I think, like you said, they could either be, they could literally get bounced on the first round, or they're going to win 1 or 2 rounds. I don't think they'll make the finals. I think it's going to
the Western Conference Finals potentially. They do have a lot of talent on this team.
I feel like it's going to be one or the other, and I don't feel like there's any middle ground for that. I don't think it's going to be a second round. I just feel like it's going to be that, and if they play in the Western Conference Finals, it's against Nuggets, and they're going to get cooked again. So,
I think there's a lot of teams in the West that you could look at, and I personally, there's a multitude of teams that I don't see the Lakers beating in the 7-game series. If you want me to run down those teams, I can.
Yeah.
Obviously the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not going to have a shot against the Nuggets. Lakers fans, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, they're not.
If Jamal Murray, Jokic are healthy, that ain't going to happen. I think Phoenix, they need D-Book and Bradley Beal to obviously come back. Another bold prediction. I think either the Pelicans, Mavericks, or the Thunder are going to make the Western Conference Finals playing the Denver Nuggets. I don't see Bradley Beal going to be really healthy. He's missed over 100-some games in his 3-year career. Ankle injury already for D-Book. That's very, very concerning. He's going to be missing some time. I don't think the Suns, they don't have that much depth, in my opinion. It's kind of like Kevin Durant in Brooklyn all over again. His guys ain't available. You know what I mean? I think it's not really going to go well for Phoenix, my personal opinion. The Pelicans. I like this Pelicans team. I like how Oklahoma, they always play with a chip on their shoulder. I think the Clippers, is going to blow up in their face. I think the Grizzlies, with John Morant being suspended for 25 games, is going to be too late. They'll be a play-in team. I don't think they're going to gel well enough come to postseason play. Mm-hmm. So those 3 teams I mentioned, the Mavericks, Pelicans, or Thunder, one of those 3 teams is going to make the Western Conference Finals this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair. I honestly don't. I mean, NBA matchups don't always necessarily take the teams. I'll give you one prediction. I know we've talked about the Celtics and Bucks a lot. Yeah. I'm going to say this right now. I don't think both those teams are making the Eastern Conference Finals.
Ooh.
And the only reason I'm saying that right now is because if Dame and Giannis don't wake up soon, it's going to be problems in the playoffs because Chris Middleton...
That's not looking too good right now.
Yeah.
It's not looking good.
So one of two ways is going to happen. Either one, they're going to play because one of these teams doesn't end up being the 1 or 2 seed, and they're going to be a lower seed. They're going to play each other in the second round.
Okay.
Or one of these teams is going to choke in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. We don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I really feel like it might not happen. I feel like we're hyping it up so much, but it's like the Lakers and the Clippers back in the 2019-2020 season. They were talking about so much Western Conference Finals. It's going to be the championship. What happened?
It's true.
I feel like that is very possible, and I'll say this, I have more faith right now in the Celtics than the Bucks, just because of how good they've looked. Yeah. But we'll see. That could change.
Not only that, I think it'd be very, very interesting if this blows up in the Clippers' face. Mm-hmm. Daryl Morey's not done making moves.
No.
With the package that he just received for James Harden, he's going to use someone to get another player to pair up with Maxey and Embiid. I would not be surprised if Philly made the Eastern Conference Finals.
I will say right now I have them.
My
other bold prediction is I still keep Philly in the top 3.
Yeah.
Even with everything. Mm-hmm. And I say Tyrese Maxey makes the All-Star team this year.
Oh. Yeah.
I think that right now
he's a damn good player, man.
He's stepping up right now.
Yep.
If he can continue this, I really do think he has a potential to make an All-Star team this year.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I really do think people are going to be like, damn, this guy can actually this. I mean, we know he can hoop, but he's made a step up every year, and right now he's a number 2. So we'll see.
Absolutely, and he's gonna be a great number 2 in this league moving forward. He's gonna be such a great player.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Those are very interesting bold predictions.
I mean, I feel like a lot of things can happen, man. But I just feel like if we only focus on like the teams that the media is only going to focus on, is like we're never going to be able to talk about anybody else.
Yeah.
But Nick, I know that I did a little too early, but this time for sure. So something that we dropped on social media is that we are going to have a special guest on the podcast.
Yes.
So Nick, I would like you to give us who this is going to be.
Yes.
And give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a former NBA first-round draft selection going to be hopping on the podcast. Michigan State legend Maurice Ager is going to be hopping on the podcast. We appreciate him for willing to hop on the podcast. But, you know, a lot of people might be like, who is Maurice Ager? I'm gonna give a little background on him. So he played college basketball at Michigan State. You know, as a junior MSU, he led Michigan State all the way to the Final Four. It was the same year with Illinois lost to North Carolina in the Final Four. When Illinois had D. Will, D. Brown, Luther Head, DJ Augustine. That team was loaded. And then his senior year, he led the Big Ten in scoring average over 19 points per game, participated in the dunk contest in the 2006 Final Four. In his career, he scored 1,554 points at Michigan State, was selected 26 overall by the Dallas Mavericks in 2006. Outside of basketball, he's a music producer, and he was considered for a Grammy Award for one of his songs. And now he actually lives in Vietnam, and he has his own hoop school, and he travels a lot to help a lot of kids out there to improve their basketball games and stuff like that. So I think it's very cool that he still sticks with the game and helps a lot of kids and inspires them to go play the sport that they love, especially in Vietnam. Basketball's not really popular. He's trying to make it more popular out there. So, Maurice, man, I appreciate you for willing to help on the podcast, man, and, you know, I'm very looking forward to that episode. We don't have the exact date yet, but we can't wait to have him on, and obviously, I'm a big Duke fan.
Yeah.
We're going to ask him about when he dunked on J.J. Redick in the Sweet 16. That's the year that Michigan State made it to the Final Four, and I can't wait to ask him some questions. So, if you guys have any questions for him, you guys want to do more research on him, you know, we'll definitely ask any of the questions that you guys have for him, so...
Definitely, and Maurice, I know we haven't met yet, but really excited to meet you, talk with you, get to chop up some hoops with you.
Yeah.
Definitely would love to learn more about your time in the NBA, your time in like professional basketball as well.
Yep.
And Nick, I can't wait for that, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially a guy that got drafted in the first round.
Of course, and played
by Mark Cuban, played with Dirk.
Yeah, I was gonna.
That's lit.
Oh yes, 100%. You know what? Like, and that's the thing is like, we want to learn more about the game from those who played it and those who have the knowledge there. So
especially someone that played it at the highest level possible.
100%, man.
No.
I mean, that's the crazy part. But guys, as always, we appreciate you guys listening to the podcast, sharing it, giving us your feedback, letting us know what you think. And again, if you want to jump on the podcast, you let us know. Just hit me or Nick up.
Yeah.
We will get some time set up with you to definitely go over some stuff. And Nick, I just want to say, man, I'm really hyped that basketball is back. We're going to have a lot more episodes coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot to talk about. And I definitely will say, follow us on X, Twitter. Follow us on our Spotify page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep looking out for more content as the season keeps going on.
Yep.
And guys, as always, for me and Nick, this is all ball, no foul. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll talk to you soon.